live on YouTube. Awesome. And we are also, let me stop recording and start recording. So, happy Monday to all of our watchers. As you can see, we are live in the metaverse here in Spatial, one of our favorite places to be. We are also in our women's space where we actually meet every single week and talk about how amazing it is to be a woman in the metaverse. Oftentimes we watch mind elevating videos. Just as you guys know, in our book club we come to read mind elevating books and talk about what the heck is happening in today's society. We talk about the real news and about the ways that we can continue to build in it. So if you've never joined in the space, click the links that I'm going to be sharing below and stay tuned. For everyone that's watching us, we appreciate you, we see you, and again, we appreciate you. So today, as you guys can see here, we are going to be wrapping up season 3. Man, we've been going strong with this book club for almost about a year now. So definitely appreciate everyone that's been rocking with us. This month for season 3 in September, we will be talking about The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And one of the things I love about this book is just the way it's set up. You guys know me. During this first book club, I love talking about the book structure. And why? Because I feel like in English class, it's always one of those things that your teacher talked about that meant so much, because the authors put so much intention into it about the chapters and everything that you're going to be reading, and you can learn just so much from even that outline. So one of the things I really enjoyed about this book so far while reading it is one thing that the author Housel did was create and use stories as references. So as you guys know, we're talking about money, right? The psychology of money. And so one of the things we're all trying to do is study these billionaires and trillionaires and the people who know what money is and how money works in order to, try to figure out their sauce and figure out what they did. And in this book, The Psychology of Money, the author puts stories from so many different authors. And not only that, but he has his own main points and use those stories as references, and they all build on top of each other. So I'm really going to do the author a service by having today's book club be similar, where I have the physical copy, so to get started, I'm going to be reading a lot of quotes from out of it, but they're going to be a build-up, because that's exactly how he wrote this book, as a build-up to build onto your understanding so that you can really start to understand psychology. And it's funny because Zay and I was talking about, math and science, and we were talking about how science is one of those things that build up, right? If you get a science equation, it's not as simple as you think, because whole time you have to have an understanding from a different area of expertise. And so I really feel like as you read this book, that's how your understanding of money goes and grows as you read further and further into this book. And again, it was in such a simple form where you got your bullets, your examples, your reference points, and some food for thought for you to look into your own life and start to reflect on money differently and how you can. So with that being said, let me also add a sticky note here for our question for the day, which is, what seeds are you planting based on the opportunities we're lucky to be living through? And so if I spell opportunities wrong, don't make fun of me, y'all, and then enter. And so for everybody that's watching, you see how easy that is. And here's my little sticky note that I just made. And so let me also open it up, Zay, so that you can leave notes here if you like, or even just feel free to unmute and add to the convo if you like. But here's our sticky note for our question of today. And all of our viewers, we always ask our viewers as well. So feel free to drop your answer in the comments and let us know what seeds you're planting based on the opportunities you're lucky enough to be living through today. And if you don't know what that means, by the end of our book club today, I hope that you do. And let me also, before I get rolling, like I said, allow you to be able to add content. So Zay, you should see a plus sign now where you can add notes if you wanted to add any notes while I'm chit-chatting away. Or like I said, unmute yourself. Keep the convo flowing It always sounds good to me when we have more dialogue. So again, feel free to add that. Let me see if I can sit down too. There we go. Ooh, look at that, so cute. All right, best. So let's get it going. The psychology of money. So I wanted to get started, and I'm going to talk about the chapter's names and then a few of the quotes that I got from each chapter. And it starts out as "No one is crazy." And well, I actually started as the greatest, let me back it up a step before I jump into "No one's crazy." The greatest show on earth is actually the first chapter. And why I wanted to start with this chapter is because, again, it gives a great overview on what this book is really about. So it says, the premise of this book is that doing well with money has a little to do with how smart you are and a lot to do with how you behave. The behavior is hard to teach, even to really smart people. A genius who loses control of their emotions can be a financial disaster, and the opposite is true. Ordinary folks with no financial education can be wealthy if they have a handful of behavior skills that have nothing to do with formal measures of intelligence. And again, that's something that I was like, wow, that's true. You don't have to go to some type of Ivy League to be able to gain this kind of information and be able to put yourself in a good position. How many examples do we have in the world of billionaires that dropped out of high school or dropped out of college and now who are who they are because they put their mind to it? And that's why we are taking this step to understand the psychology of money so that we can start to implement those good behaviors. And so moving on into the book as well, he says, the fascinating thing about these stories is how unique they are in finance. In what other industry does someone with no college degree, no training, no background, and no formal experience, and no connections massively outperform someone with the best education, the best training, and the best connections? Right? And he gives an example, like a janitor could not outperform a heart surgeon, right? Those two things are not interchangeable. But in this chapter here, he also gave an example of a janitor that worked his whole life, saved up all of his money and didn't spend, and had $8 million when he died, compared to a heart surgeon who had the money at that time but spent a lot and had barely anything to pass down when he passed away. And so again, it just comes down to a mindset and where you put yourself. And so again, it's not that any of these things are bad, it's that knowing what to do tells you nothing about what happens in your head when you try to do it. And I thought that was just a bombshell right there, because that's so true. You can set a game plan, you can set a budget, but in that moment when you're at the dinner table or when you see something in the store that you wanted to buy, it's those emotions that are going to tell you to forget that, let's alter the plan and do something different. So it comes down to just forming better behaviors. And so, say for example, he gives another quote here. Engineers can determine the cause of a bridge collapse because there are agreements that if a certain amount of force is applied in a certain area, that area will break. Physics isn't controversial. It's guided by laws. Finance is different. It's guided by people's behavior. And how I behave might make sense to me, but might look crazy to you. So to grasp why people bury themselves in debt, and you don't need to study interest rates. You need to study the history of greed, insecurity, and optimism. And then he also gave this quote from Voltaire that says, history never repeats itself. Man always does. And I was like, man, that's another bombshell right there. Because yes, we say history repeats itself, but it's not history. It's the man in history that repeats themselves. And that's how we can again gauge that. And so from there, he goes into this chapter 2, which is no one's crazy. And you guys can already see how that's building up, right? He was over here just talking about how no one's crazy for what they do, or it's just we all have these different ways of thinking. So in this chapter, he starts talking about how, again, no one is crazy because you just don't understand why they're thinking about it. And so in this one, again, it kind of goes into how I just mentioned about the budgeting. So this quote says, spreadsheets can model the historic frequency of big stock market declines, but they can't model the feeling of coming home, looking at your kids and wondering if you've made a mistake that will impact their lives. Studying history makes you feel like you understand something, but until you've lived it through and personally felt the consequences, you may not understand it enough to change your behavior. He gave another quote here from investor Michael Batnick that says, "Some lessons have to be experienced before you can understand them." And how much is that true? Somebody can tell you not to do something and that you should do something, but until you've gone through it, you're not going to get it. And he gives a really good example here. For example, we talk about lottery tickets and how majority of the people that buy these lottery tickets are people that are in poverty. And he gave the statistics that the average person that buys a lottery ticket spends about $400 a month in lottery in a year in lottery tickets, but says it would be almost impossible for them to come up with $400 in the case of an emergency. So to somebody, with a rational mind, they would say, "Oh, well, that's insane. Stop buying lottery tickets and, save up that $1 every week that you're spending or so and save that for an emergency." But to that person who's living in poverty, they see, "Oh, well, you have a secure job that you're paying for your bills and paying for your kids' college and can go on a family vacation if you want. But for me, who is unskilled and barely has a decent job that's barely paying the ends meet, that all that you have seems impossible to even reach." So to them, it makes sense for them to go and spend $1 and have their 1 in a million chance to actually get that shot of a nice lifestyle compared to their chances of being able to actually earn that. And so again, it really comes down to that mindset though, right? And so I thought that was just a really great example of, again, how it's not that people are crazy, but again, it's just trying to understand your situation and how everyone's situation is different. And then also, all of this stuff is new. He gave this really great example about retirement, right? Because this is something new. So let me just read this quote here where he says, "Let me reiterate how new this idea is. The 401k, the backbone saving vehicle for American retirement, did not exist until 1978. And when I hear that number 1978, I'm like, man, that was after my mother was even born. Like 1978 was not too long ago. And both the IRA was not born until 1998. And when I think about that, I'm like, man, that's younger than when my little sister was born. And if it were a person, it would be barely old enough to drink today. So it should surprise no one that many of us are bad at saving and investing for retirement. We're not crazy, we're just newbies. So aside from even taking in consideration everybody's specific situation, we have to take in consideration how new all of these situations that we're even living through are. Because again, like we just said, the savings account, that's new. IRAs, that's new. Money is something that's, this paper dollar is new. We're living in cryptocurrency where this is this new form of currency and this new way of even looking at how to value that currency and energy and trade it and what that even looks like. So again, it's not that we're crazy. It's taking into account that the things that we're living through are new. And that's why, us here, especially the network that we're building, we pride ourselves on understanding that and taking today to learn what that is. And that's why we even have this book club where we say, let's read these mind elevating books and study and understand so that we can understand what's happening right now and what's happening in the future. Because looking in that future is how we are able to plan for that instead of just living in this moment. And so with that comes the next chapter, which is luck and risk. And one of the things I loved about this chapter is how he talked about how much people don't like talking about how much luck has to do with a lot of things. Because if you tell someone, oh, luck has to do with it, they'll tell you, no, it takes this and it takes that. But think about it. Like I just said, what's this year? 2022. How lucky are we to be living in this year? We have my kid, he's 4 years old. He's not old enough to be living in this moment and taking advantage of these opportunities that we are. That's luck right there. Luck is as simple as when you were born, or where you were born, or whom you were born to. Those are all things that you have no control over, but all that comes is down to your luck and God and the things that your hand that you were given, basically. And so when you start to understand the luck and the cards that you have and then how to play them, that's how now you can navigate the risk that you're willing to take based on that. And so one of the great examples he gave in this book was Bill Gates, and when Bill Gates went to school. And he gave this example of even how Bill Gates got started. He was in a middle school where they got a computer back in the day. And they had one of these great computers that not even college kids had, because computers were so new. But here he is in middle school with a computer that he starts studying with two friends. And so the chances of you or his peers being in a middle school that had that kind of computer was 1 in a million. That's luck, right? Because, maybe not to him per se, because his parents had probably planned for that and put him in that school for a reason, but because they understood that's how you get those chances to be in the right place at the right time, compared to somebody else in the same area at a different school right down the road that will not see those opportunities because they aren't surrounded by that computer. And so when you look at luck, you also have to look at risk. And I liked how he used the example of Bill Gates and, the luck of them in their school, and their school even having that computer to plant those seeds that get you to a Bill Gates currently that built Microsoft and so on and so forth. But he also had a partner at that time who was just as lucky to have been at that school at the right time, but he was willing to take more risk, where he liked to go hiking. And I don't remember the exact statistic of how many people they said actually pass away from hiking accidents, but it was 1 in a million when you get the chances. And of course, his friend was one of those people that passed away. A 1 in a million chance that you go hiking and that happens to you. So again, I don't want to dwell on the details on how much was luck and how much was pre-planned and that kind of stuff. But again, understanding those kind of details when it says they had those same opportunities, but his friend was willing to take more risk in that, and understanding what you're willing to risk and what you're not able to risk. And so some of the bullet points that he mentioned throughout this chapter was that I really wanted to point out was, let me get to my quote here. Studying a specific person can be dangerous because we tend to study extreme examples, the billionaires, the CEOs, or the massive failures that dominate the news. And extreme examples are often the least applicable to our other situations, given their complexity. The more extreme the outcome, the less likely you can apply its lessons to your own life, because the more likely the outcome was influenced by extreme ends of luck or risk. And that's again how we bring that back to full cycle when we talk about not focusing so much on the messenger, but focus on the message that you see there. And so he goes on to say, you can get closer to actionable takeaways by looking for broad patterns of success and failure. The more common the pattern, the more applicable it might be to your own life. Trying to emulate Warren Buffett's investment success is hard because his results are so extreme that the role of luck in his lifetime is likely very high, and luck isn't something you emulate. And again, when we talk about luck in that, what was Warren Buffett's stock that he is most infamous for investing in as a child? Coca-Cola. But right now, if you go put that same 5 cent or 10 cent into Coca-Cola like Warren Buffett did in his time when he was coming up, the chances of you making it into Warren Buffett status is very unlikely. And that's how we talk about luck. But then also, what was he risking by devoting his time and his money at that young age? He was risking, being made fun of by those kids, or even investing, because 5 cent or 10 cent was still a lot in that day and age, so he was risking being able to fund other things at that time to be able to invest in something that he believed in long term. And when we continue to go on, he pulls out another quote from Bill Gates that says, "Success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. When things are going extremely well, realize it's not as good as you think. You are not invincible. If you acknowledge that luck brought you success and you have no belief in luck's cousin, then you have belief in luck's cousin, risk, which you can turn your story just as quickly. But the same is true for any other direction. Failure can be a lousy teacher because it seduces smart people into thinking their decisions were terrible, when sometimes just reflect on the unforgiving realities of risk. The trick when dealing with failure is arranging your financial life in a way that a bad investment here and a missed financial goal there won't wipe you out, so while you keep playing until the odds are in your favor." And one of the things I really liked about that, you guys know I'm all about bringing all of these quotes we hear here and there all together, because these are where those quotes come from, where it says, you only have to be right once. And so how often does that mean that we're wrong? And how many times are we hard on ourselves for all of those times we are wrong? But understanding that it comes down because we're taking those risks. And risk means that we're not always going to be right. And that's just a part of this journey. And sometimes it comes down to luck. And again, with it being right place, right time, and all those odds being in our favor, and understanding that. And so once we move into chapter 3, we move into never enough. And here he really talks about how, a lot of the reasons why once you start getting that taste of success, right? Once you have it down and you start to become a little successful, how you want to become even more successful. And because you want more success, now you start taking more risk. And so when he was going through this chapter, he says, if you risk something that is important to you for something that is unimportant to you, it just does not make sense. There is no reason to risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. And so he gave these 3 big points here about that, which is the hardest financial skill is getting the goalposts to stop moving. Understanding when enough is enough and being okay with all that comes more. And also, social comparison is the problem. Stop comparing yourself to your peers, right? He talks about how a rookie can join a team and he can be making $500,000 playing basketball or so. And that seems amazing to us, right? That might be, or the average person that is making, who knows what, maybe $50,000 a year, right, at an average salary. So if you're making $50,000 a year and you see a rookie who's just, sitting on the bench making $500,000 a year, that's great. But to that rookie who may be on the team with the all-star that's making $43 million a year, again, that's when that social comparison has to stop. Just be as good as you are in your role and everything else will grow from there. But comparing yourself to the next and trying to get up to that next person is why that goalpost then continues to move and why you now feel like you have to continue to make more and more risk in order to catch up to them. Whereas again, when you respect your own time and God's time and everything that you already have aligned, you're going to get everything that's already destined for you. And so enough is not too little. That's another thing that he follows up with. And then there are many things never worth risking, no matter the potential gain. And again, it just continues to reiterate that, because again, even in this space, people love saying like FUD, that fear and doubt, or the fear, or FOMO, the fear of missing out. And again, not being willing to risk your family's livelihood for something that's not worth that extra gain, and having those boundaries, because then that's how you start setting yourself back. Rather than trusting your process and trusting yourself and trusting God, you start risking it all to get a fast gain, and now you've lost it all. So, we always have that saying, we're not trying to microwave it. Even at the beginning, Zay and I was talking and saying, this is a marathon. So understanding that and not being willing to risk that. And one of the things I wanted to wrap this up from out of this book was confounding and compounding, and how you can even bring everything I've been talking about so far, which should start shifting those mindsets when thinking about your luck and the situations that you're put into, and what you're willing to risk and not willing to risk in order to continue to get further. But next comes understanding the confounding compounding. And so at the beginning of this chapter, he makes a really great statistic which says 81.5 billion of Warren Buffett's 84.5 billion net worth came after his 65th birthday. Our minds are not built to handle these such absurdities, because again, how could someone have earned all of that money after they turned 65 when most are retiring? Because of a mindset again. And so before he even started talking about Warren Buffett, he talks about the ice ages. And if you have heard about the ice ages or not heard about the ice ages, the author gives a great overview on how there's this theory that the earth that we live on used to freeze over, right? It would be completely covered in ice, and then all the ice would melt, and this cycle would be like every 10,000 years or so. And so, doing their studies on how that could happen, it was as simple as a summer not being cool enough to actually melt all of the snow. By summer not being or hot enough to melt all of the snow. So by one summer not being hot enough to melt all of the snow, the next winter comes and a little bit more snow adds up. And the summer comes, it doesn't melt at all again. And now winter comes, a little bit more snow adds up. Until after 10,000 years, now the whole earth is covered in snow. And that's exactly how compounding works. And understanding again the seeds that we're planting works and starts to grow as you nurture it over time, and why time is again one of our most essential tools when it comes to this. And it starts with understanding the time that you're in and the time that is coming up next, so that again you can be putting yourself in the position preparing for that. My husband always has this quote that goes, a broken clock is only right twice. And I'm one of those people that says, I don't want to be a broken clock anymore. I want to understand the time it is, so I can always be in that right place, right time, ready for the opportunities, instead of just being right once or twice. And it is possible when you understand and value time and keep time on your mind and of essence, and understand that. And so a quote that I'll start reading from here says, the big takeaway from ice ages is that you don't need tremendous force to create tremendous results. It's something compounds. If a little growth serves as the fuel to future growth, a small starting base can lead to results so extraordinary they seem to defy logic. It can be so logic-defying that you underestimate what's possible, where growth comes from, and what it can lead to. And it's the same with money. And he gave the example again of Warren Buffett. And so the example that I'll read about Warren Buffett says, effectively, all of Warren Buffett's financial success can be tied to financial base he built in his pubescent years and the longevity he made in his geriatric years. His skills in investing, but his secret was time. And that's how compounding works. So again, think about it. And let me see if I can find this statistic here about how. But again, like I just said, it started from him investing at 10 years old, and those seeds he planted there, and then continued to go through 65. And so he gave this really nice comparison that say Warren Buffett would have just started investing at 21 years old, like most people when they become of age, and then stopped investing at 65 years old and wanted to retire at that age. He would only be worth $11.9 million. In comparison to the $84.5 billion he's worth today. That is 99.9% less than his actual net worth. And that's why he then becomes in that 1%, because he is willing to do all those other things that his peers weren't at that young age, and continue to do even at the age he is today. You still watch news and he's still having interviews. He's still investing, and people still are looking at him in this manner to understand what they can do to mimic it. But again, what we just learned is that's not how that works. You're not you can go and try to study his how he invests, but again, his secret was time. His secret was he started at an early age and he continues to keep going. He's continuing to nurture those investments. And so that's why I asked our group today, what seeds are you planting based on the opportunities we're lucky to be living through? And of course, how we're nurturing that. And if you've been in our book club before, I know that this is kind of a question that you can almost answer very easily, because we're here in the metaverse. We're showing you how we're doing this now. But for all of those that aren't, that's why I pose this question, so that everyone can start to reflect on that and assess the times that we're living in and see what they are lucky to be living through, what risks they are taking and what risks they're not willing to take in order to further in this. And so before I kind of open it up to just hear if Say has anything to add, we will especially next book club, we're going to really get even more into the money side of it. But one of the things I loved about this book, because we've read a few different books regarding money, especially like from women in money and just, again, understanding money and investing. Again, this is the psychology of money and just thinking about money in these different ways, because again, it's like one of those things they tell you about, the law of attraction. Just because you say you want to go get money and start to work hard, it's almost like you're going to start to push that idea away. So if you start to open up your mind and shift your mindset about how you can even attract money, that's how now we can start to work smarter in order to let that be a result of everything that we're already doing. So Miss Zay, did you have anything you would like to add about anything I've gone over in this book, or even just talking about the seeds that you're planting based on the opportunities we're lucky enough to be living through right now?
So I could answer this in a million different ways. But you hit it right on the nail with like being in the metaverse and being into crypto. But it could literally be anything. It's everybody plants seeds every day, and as a parent planting seeds in my kids' mind to like be better than how I am, I'm usually always like trying to tell my daughter, especially, us women, we have this thing where we're trying to gain the, how do you say that, you're trying to win over people, and it comes with a cost of losing yourself, kind of like people pleasing. Like my baby is so beautiful and she's so caring that she oversteps all the time. I think in my head, like, she oversteps and overcompensates with her friends, and they don't give her that same thing back. And I had that growing up. So right now, the seeds I'm planting in her is, you come before anybody else. You have to worry about you, not your friend, not this one, not even me. It has to be about you. Put yourself first so that you never feel like you're putting yourself last in any situation. And it took me 20 something years to get to like literally thinking like, wow, I need to really put myself first. But my daughter is 20 years younger than me, so I'm trying to catch her up on something that I had to learn just now. So that's the seed that I'm planting into my child right now. I'm planting seeds into my sons. I'm raising boys that will be men, and I can't raise them to be a man, but I can raise them to treat women how they would want me to be treated, how they see me being treated in life. So those are other plant like seeds that I'm planting. I'm literally physically planting seeds right now in my garden. So that's another thing going on right now. And that's a whole like, you have to buy the seeds, you have to plant them, you have to nourish them and see if they're growing or not. You have to put them in new environments when it doesn't work out. So that's another one. I have poultry. I feel like everybody at this point knows I have poultry. I love to brag about my chickens. Um, but right now I'm raising chickens, and I raised chickens since they were babies. And that was like, you're planting, you're being with animals or a living thing, and making sure that they grow, survive, and are strong, and are breathing every day. That's something that you plant every day. You're working towards every day. You have to keep on doing it every day, feeding them, watering them, making sure they're okay, healthy every day. And then also showing my children how I'm doing that. So then when they grow older and they want to sit there and be a farmer like their mom, they're like, I already know how to do this. We see mommy do this every dang day. And it's always like, an early morning chore. I'm setting planting seeds like that. If you do it early in the morning, then you have free time later on. Um, I'm big on procrastination. I really am. It's been my whole life. So right now I'm planting the seeds in my kids and myself to stop with the procrastination and let's keep on moving. Because don't wait to end. And I'm trying to I'm an example for them planting that seed. Like, look, you see how I could have did this better? And they're like, yeah, like we noticed that. And I'm like, yes, but everybody does it. But I want you to think, wow, like mom procrastinated and she could have did this. So I'm not gonna do that because mommy said to be better than her. That's always been my message to my kids. I want them to always be better than me. And they look at me like, wow, why would you say that? But it's the truth. You always want your children to be a million times better than you as a human and thinking in every aspect. So as a parent, I'm planting seeds in my children. Um, as a wife, I am planting different seeds on. Being a wife is a different type of seed planting because you're still growing with your other partner. So there's always seeds to plant in each other, how to grow together, how to keep on, maneuvering life together. Because people think that it's easy. They think that a wife and husband is just a cool title and like, oh, you're cute. It's a lot of work behind the scenes, and we both understand that because we're wives. So planting seeds, as in, just every time there's a bump in the road, not thinking that, it's the end of the world, or every time there's a hardship, like literally getting through it, and then, making sure that you don't keep on making the same mistakes in your relationship. So that's another seed I've been planting, and a seed that my husband's been planting in me. So it's not just me planting the seeds, it's I have a family. So they plant seeds in me too. I'm also learning from everyone too, and I love that it's like that because I I was very much when I was younger. I wasn't open to people giving criticism or like helping me, or I had the whole like strong black woman syndrome where it's like you can't help me, I'm gonna help myself. You can't tell me something, I'm gonna figure it out myself. But now being more soft and more vulnerable, more open, I'm taking not criticism because I don't want to call it criticism. I'm taking the help that I should have been having, and I'm learning how to be okay with receiving help, whether it be in words or physical support. I'm learning that help is good and help is great. So that's a seed that's been planted in me, especially this year. Um, and then, yeah, just overall, I mean, there's more seeds I know I keep on saying seeds, but
Hey,
there's
plant them
more things that
seeds.
I've been learning. Like, yeah, I have a lot of seeds. Okay, there's been like 10 million seeds. But there's
No,
also like seriously, being with the Dow, that's also a seed. Like that's a big seed. Learning how to collaborate and be with a lot of people, learning how to maneuver and function in this new space because it's not new to me really, but it still is in a sense because we're pioneering, so we don't know where this is going. We're just like blazing the trunk, keep it pushing forward. But this is something that has really been a mind opening experience, truly. And it's been planting a lot of seeds in education. Me educating different people, that's planting a seed as in use my voice, use what I know to help others. That's now more of a message that I hold true to myself, and it's not just the Dow anymore. That I'm like, okay, I'm educating others just in the Dow. It's like now it's real life. Now in real life, I'm educating others when I'm at work, when I'm at home. I'm trying to put that forward. Networking, even in real life. In real life, I've always networked. I was always a networker. I'm very social, but overall, how I network has very much changed, and I'm learning that you network different with different people because you want to treat people how they want to be treated, not how you want to be treated, because everybody's different. So networking and understanding, like, oh, my dogs are barking. Sorry, guys. But just networking and understanding how to network with just very many different people in all aspects, whether it's in the metaverse or in real life. And then one last thing I'll tell you about my seeds. But like gaming, that's another thing that I that's a seed that's been planted, and I like here and there dabbled in it. But gaming is definitely gonna be my next thing that I'm gonna try to have all the seeds planted for me, because it's new, but very much learning how to be okay with um, people and their comments. Like learning how to just ignore people in their comments when you're gaming, because that's a big thing, and I don't think people talk about that a lot, but that is a big thing. So yeah, that's the new thing that the seeds that are being planted, but that's a whole bunch of seeds, and I'll stop saying seeds because at this point I am a seed. So yeah, that's a whole lot of everything that's been being planted in my life right now.
Yes, no, I absolutely love that. And I love how you talked about all of the different facets and how you're planting seeds in there and using that based on the times and opportunity, right? Seeing like, oh, I have kids and they're this age and I want them, 20 years from now to see that seed that I'm planting now, be able to help them then, especially seeing like, man, I'm this year's old and trying to help them not have to learn a lot of the lessons that I took 20 years learning, because, that's one of those opportunities that we have where it's like, we're aware of that. You see, man, it took me 20 years to break this habit. Let me start planting those seeds now in my children. And even how you're talking about all the different things you're doing in your home with your dogs and your animals and poultry, and even just educating with that. Again, another thing based on the opportunities now. How many people this year have now started to try to grow food and vegetables at home because of the times that we're living in? With our president going on to the news and telling everybody, oh yeah, there's about to be limited food, and understand of food shortages and just all of the different things that are happening in today's day and age, and understanding that and using it as an opportunity to not only do it yourself, but an opportunity to grow and educate others, and that being one of those biggest seeds that we can take advantage of and opportunities that we could take advantage of. And so and even with the gaming, the crypto, being in a DAO, everything that you mentioned there, again, it being an opportunity that's based right now, that you understand, oh, because this is about to be that next rush, right? And so when it comes to the seeds that I've been planting, I would say one of the things that I really enjoyed, especially being in this crypto market, when we first came into crypto, the market was under like a $500 billion. And so why we were so successful is because we got in so early. So when the market went up to over $3 trillion, and maybe people don't understand how much 1 trillion is, but it being so much money, that's why we were able to catapult ourselves off into a position that we would have never imagined, because of those seeds we started planting early when everyone else was crazy. I remember when the markets were crashing and Bitcoin went down to 3,000 and Ethereum was only $100, and we're telling everybody, like, everybody just put your money together, everybody buy crypto, everybody, take advantage of this opportunity right here, because the money's coming back. The money is coming back into the market, and people not taking advantage until a year later. Is full-fledged Bitcoin up 50,000, 60,000, Ethereum 2,000, and it's like, but imagine if you would have bought it at $100. Now you're trying to buy it at $1,000, and you could have already 10 times that money, 20 times that money. And it gets even crazier because you already know we were into the altcoins that came in under a penny, that went to $1, and 100 times your money, bruh. 100 times your money, bruh. How many opportunities do you have? And so again, taking advantage of that and seeing those opportunities, because just like we tell people now that are trying to get into crypto, and it's like, yeah, you get into crypto now, but opportunities have changed. Now it's not so easy for you to just go and withdraw $100,000, or especially in the future, it's not about to be, it's not even as easy for you to set up a crypto wallet as it was when I got in, and especially not to withdraw your money. And so that's again why timing is so important, taking advantage of those opportunities and planting the seed when it's time to. And so just like you mentioned the Dow, Zay, that's why this Dow is so important. We already know we are shifting business models. One of the conversations we had during Women in the Metaverse, and to all of our listeners, if you missed that, you can go check out the Raw Dow podcast, where we share the Women in the Metaverse every Monday. Our replays there. And I would say Zay gave an amazing rundown of what an ecopreneur is and what that even looks like. And I was like, man, I might even have to read. That's a good reference when people are trying to understand what that even means, because you did such a great job just explaining that. But we understand business models are changing, and just like crypto had its run, so will play to earn games. So that's why gaming is important. So will DAOs. That's why DAOs are important. So instead of trying to chase the last fad, be in the right position for the next fad in the future. And that's why all of the different things that we're doing is being in that right place, right time. And that's where we at with it. So those are some of the seeds I'm planting, which is just continuing to nourish and what are those seeds that I have before with crypto and educating, and also this DAO, most importantly, and growing this network and making it a strong adhesive. When it comes to like internalizing in the psychology, just like Zay said, I've always been one of those people that are super caring and giving as well. But how many times do we sit there and plant seeds in a garden that is, the soil isn't fertile though, and that's not really, it's like trying to grow an apple tree in an orange field, right? It's like, that's not even what you should be trying to do. You can't do that, or even like when it comes down to gardening, you have to even know what zone you're in and what kind of fruits and vegetables you can even grow right there, so really trying to make sure I'm just really planting the seeds with the right people around, because just like we talked about in one of our books previously, I can't even think off the top of my head which book it was, but it was saying how, again, if you plant a poisonous seed, it was the Earl Nightingale, the biggest secret to success, which is if you plant a poisonous seed next to a corn seed, you're still going to get poisonous corn, because the poison is still right next to the corn. So it's still making sure that we're planting the right seeds in the right soil, and we taking those weeds out and making sure that we're protecting those seeds as well. And so you guys know I'm always saying that, because that's something I'm dealing with, especially it's hard to sometimes cut those weeds, because you feel like, oh well, this is somebody that was my friend, but at the end of the day, again, you have to protect that seed. And like you said, Zay, it's something that is from childhood, something that we have to continue to learn and unlearn. And so those are some of the seeds that I'm planting in my psychology of money and how I want to even grow that. So as I've mentioned, our next book club will continue to go even further. I hope you guys did hear again how he's done an amazing job building these chapters into one another. And these next few chapters are really even getting more into the money aspect. And so I'm really excited to talk about it again with you all with our next week, or our next book club meeting, which will be on the 28th. So you guys know we meet the second and fourth Wednesday of every single week. Like I was telling Zay before, we will kind of combine the Women in the Metaverse with the book club in a sense where we have them on the same day, because we've got some really cool stuff brewing with token gating, NFTs, and all of our members here in the book club. So if you've never been here, like I said, I'm going to drop a link to the space. Feel free to join and be a part of the conversation. Leave a comment with what seeds you're planting based on the opportunities we're lucky enough to be living through. And Zay, before I wrap it up for the day, did you want to add anything else? No? Oh, yes.
I only wanted to say that we're just getting started, and that's going to be reiterated forever, because even when you think we're done, we're just always getting started on this journey. So if you want to be a part, We are here for you to be a part. And if you don't, we're gonna make it, and you know, we'll wave hello. We'll see you, but we have very much big goals to, accomplish, big things to do. And so we hope that you stay on this ride with us. We hope that you enjoy our talks and that you take this and, have this conversation somewhere else, or you just become a part and you are not a poisonous seed but a healthy seed. We need healthy seeds in this Dow.
Okay.
But yeah, that's all I have to say.
No, and that was a great point right there. They definitely appreciate that. And like you said, we just getting started. And if you don't take part, then enjoy the view. Keep watching the podcast. Keep rooting for us. But we're definitely going to keep going. We are all brewing up some amazing things. And I get so excited when we actually have these opportunities to be able to share with the world what we're doing and open up the door to allow others to come in. And so, again, to all of our podcast watchers, everybody on YouTube that's watching this replay or even watching us live right now, because we are live streaming right on YouTube, which is crazy, in the metaverse, live streaming on YouTube, sharing the podcast on Apple, Spotify, all that. Like, yeah, we doing it, and we just getting started. So these are all just steps in the right direction, and we understand that it's compounding, just like we talked about in the psychology of money. That's why even when it's just me and Zay here, me and Zay still show up, because we understand that we're having these important conversations that are helping us get a step further in the right direction, and all going to add up in the long term. So thank you to all of our listeners. Thank you, Zay, for being here and rocking out with me. And we'll catch you next time. Peace.